Welcome to the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. This is a show about pushing through obstacles and hard times in order to live a happy and fulfilled life. I'm your host, Ted Phaeton, and it's a pleasure to have you joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's grow. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. Big shout out to my EP executive producer, Andre Suttles, as always. And a big shout out to you for tuning into this podcast. No Rain, No Rainbows. It's about overcoming adversity to live our best lives. Joining me today, a good friend of mine. I'm excited for this podcast. David Murray in the building. And we've been talking about doing this for a while, man.
Yeah, we have, actually.
Yeah. And actually, it was at a barbecue this past Sunday. I was like, man, when are we doing the podcast? You said, I'm waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here we are a couple days later.
Yeah. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, definitely. And for our listeners that might not have been introduced to you before, who might not be from the Greenville area in South Carolina, why not really quick introduce yourself to them, who you are and what it is you do, man?
All right. My name is David Murray, like I said. I grew up in Greenville, was born and raised here, lived pretty much my whole life, excluding 2 years out of high school. I lived in Charlotte, and then after that, I moved back, went to North Greenville, played football at North Greenville, graduated from North Greenville as well. That's who I am, where I'm from. My family went to Wade Hampton High School, so, a lot of people. But after that, man, I went through a whole lot of things. I've done where I'm at currently. I'm blessed to be working at BMW. I'm what you would say my title is called a process supporter, but it's like a supervisor. Mm-hmm. So I'm not on the line building cars. Sometimes I do have to get on the line and build the cars, but I'm over scheduling and training, and so it's kind of like a lower management, which my goal is to hopefully in the next year. It's a process, it's my first time being in a automotive industry, and it's a different, it's a different change, but you just got to do your process. So hopefully in the next year or so I'll be going for management. So nice. But that's who I am right now. I have a beautiful 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Ava. Mm-hmm. And she turned 6 on July 6th. So that's just a little bit of who I am. So.
And Ava, man, I'll tell you, she lights up a room when she comes in, man. Yeah. She's grown up into a very beautiful little girl. You must be so proud, so happy.
I am. I don't want to say, everybody says they got a good kid, but I mean, man, she's been a blessing from day one, all the way from not crying and all the way through the night and sleeping. Yeah. And it's been that way her entire life. She's very, very easygoing, and, it's always been, she's been a very good blessing to my life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been lucky enough to know you for a number of years. When I first moved here to Greenville, South Carolina, our mutual friend, Charles Russ, he's been on this podcast. He's probably listening to this podcast, shaking his head that we're sitting here together. Yeah. But I've been lucky enough to meet you through him. And through the years, we've been on quite the journey. I've seen an amazing growth on your end. You've probably seen me change throughout the years, which is something that I think is beautiful. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, they say, oh, I'm the same. I don't change. I have the same friends from day one. But I think we're supposed to change along the way.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
I think so.
I mean, life happens and we go through some things. And we could talk a little bit about that, because when I met you, you were running Sharky's.
Yeah. 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 I was in the service industry, in the bars and stuff. So that was me.
Yeah. What was that like? Because I remember coming in, and I remember Charles pointing at you, and you always knew people's names. Yeah. You handled your bar very well, I must say, and people loved you, man.
Yeah. Man, it was fun. Mm-hmm. It was. I learned a lot, but you could say on my end, I guess I'm there's a lot of repercussions in that business. Yeah. A lot of bad choices, because there can be a lot of bad around that. Well, but that's in everything. And so I'm not trying to put, push this down. You know,
Yeah.
that's not my life, is trying to change and push that down. I fell into a bad situation, just from my choices, you know. But it was good. I got to meet people. There was no same day. Every day was different. You got to meet a lot of people. You got to see a life through a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it was fun. You know, I could say, you know, doing that in your 20s and early 30s, it could be definitely, it was something that was an experience, because you get to meet a lot of people, you know, and you get to have a lot of stories, a lot of funny ones, you know, and there's some bad and sad ones, you know, but it was, yeah. You know,
it was an experience,
yeah,
right?
it was.
And that's usually how it goes. I mean, you said there were some good times, bad times. I think that's the life we live. It all encompasses a whole bunch of things, and sometimes we look in our past and we see a lot of good times, a lot of joy.
Yeah.
But it sometimes gets cloudy when we're having too much fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes and I know that happened to me, where I'm just having too much fun at some point, and it's a blessing when someone can kind of be like, hey, you might be driving a little too fast here on this thing called life. Might want to pump the brakes a little bit. What was, I guess, the brakes for you? What was the kind of the taillights in front that kind of helped you pump the brakes a little bit?
Man, you could say my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there were a lot. Looking back in life, there's a lot of voices in my head telling me to pump the brakes. A lot of people, you know, good people.
Yeah.
They could see a side of me that I thought I was hiding. You know, a struggle in me that I kept hid pretty well. You know, but you know, when my daughter was born, I knew I needed a different life. I wanted a different life, not just. I wanted a different life. I wanted to be, and that was stemming from a lot of things, because I was caught up in some things that I knew I needed to change.
Yeah.
That I didn't, and I thought maybe getting out would have helped, but it only brought a lot of things to light.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that process of trying to leave? And I know for the listeners, they might be kind of questioning, okay, you know, what exactly is going on here? Do you want to tell them kind of the situation?
So on my, you know, the reason I do this, and I agreed to this because I feel a calling of, so the gist of it is, here I am going on almost, in November, it would be 5 years of sobriety. 100% free from cocaine was my drug of choice. That's a, you'll hear, you know, those acronyms.
Yeah.
You know, when you get into that world, you hear, you know, what was your DOC? Drug of choice. You know,
Yeah.
and mine was cocaine, and it was stemmed also from alcohol, and that's where I guess now you can see where I said I a lot of the bad in running the bars and business.
Yeah.
Because if you got a cocaine addiction and you got an alcohol addiction, the worst thing you need to be doing is working in a bar.
Surrounded by,
you know?
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, so, you know, November will be 5 years of that.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. You know, and I just want to, that's why I do this, because that's a passion of mine, you know, is trying to maybe help somebody, because there was an organization that helped me, you know, and really, really helped me, because a lot of people try to tell me or, you know, point me in the right direction. But man, you're not thinking.
Yeah.
You know, there is no clarity. You know, there's so much cloud, and there's so much, you know, there's just, it's hard to admit that you've got a problem, you know?
What does that recovery look like? Because I think for anybody that's listening now, I want to be clear that addiction comes in so many different forms.
Yeah.
You know, you can have addiction to drugs, you can have addiction to the gym, you can have addiction to people, you can have addiction to pornography, and these all manifest in different ways. And I think a lot of us, myself included, we all struggle with some form of addiction in some way, shape, or form in our lives. And it's not necessarily what that addiction is, it's how we break free from it that I think can really benefit some of the listeners right now. So like you mentioned, you're not thinking clear, right? Like I'm not thinking clear whenever I'm focused on, Jess will say I'm addicted to work at sometimes. Right? Like I'll go in my office, close the door, and the dogs will be barking. I wouldn't even hear them.
Yeah.
I would tell her, I was like, oh, well, I was in the zone. You know, I was in the zone. I was over here. I don't know what's going on over there. And you're tunnel visioned or you're cloudy, you're focused. You know, how can you snap somebody out of that and kind of like put the mirror up in front of them?
You know, recovery hits everybody in a different way.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own rock bottom, you know, and what might be something for you is different for me, you know. Some people, you know, if we're talking in the addiction like drug world, you know, some people it's jail, you know. Me, it was I didn't want to lose my family.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be a good dad. You know, I wanted to be a good husband. You know, but addiction was ruining that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was glad that I had the foresight, and I wanted to go. I'd been fighting it. I'd been wanting help. You know, but I didn't know how do you ask for help when you've got this facade. You know, and I mean I blew my family away. You know, by this. But you know, it came to a point. You know, at the time it was, you know, she was my wife, but you know. There was a time, you know, I knew I wanted to be something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, and the reasoning why I wasn't was because of the addiction.
Yeah.
It you know, because I think even in my addiction, I was still, you could say, worldly, like a good dude, you know. You know, I treated people right, and you know, I wasn't out there stealing from people and breaking in houses and committing crimes in my addiction, but I was neglecting the ones that were closest to me. Mm-hmm. And you know, like you say, you get in the zone. Man, my zone was to get high. Yeah. You know, and the repercussions from that. You know, it's either I was getting too drunk and I needed to find a way to sober up, and the only way was to getting high, and then I got too high, and it was like the seesaw, you know, and it was on a nightly thing, because when you're working in a bar 5 or 6 nights a week, you know, it was a nightly thing just to get through. You know, you start drinking, for me it was at least, you start drinking and then you're too drunk and you gotta get
balance out.
You gotta balance out. Yeah. And man, the seesaw was rocking harder in the end. Mm-hmm. You know, where at the beginning it was fun and it was something you could handle, you thought, you know. Yeah. But you know, that's how it was for me, you know.
I think you said something so profound there with like the seesaw, how it was something that you can handle at first, but then it gets wobbly. And, you know, I look at you, I see so much humility and care, right? And I think at some point in time, I think it's our ego that holds us back from that threshold. Mm-hmm. Where like you mentioned, you know, overall you were a good dude, you know, and it's like if we're thinking, I'm not hurting anybody, and not kind of realizing that we might be hurting those closest to us, it's kind of like our ego's the thing we need to get over to kind of step into that next realm of, hey, maybe I should seek help for this, and maybe I should have the humility to know I can't do it by myself. Yeah. For anybody that might be working on their recovery, you know, what was it like as you're, you know, now this is that's in the past, and you're moving forward, right? You're pushing through your sobriety, and I know there's probably challenges as you're pushing into that. What keeps you going, man?
Man, I never forget. And that can be hard to do because as time goes on, like a lot of people in recovery, they slip within the first year, a vast majority, and then they have a few years, the ones that make it out of that first year of sobriety or recovery, and then they slip up later on, and you ask, well, how did they do that? Well, they got out of that routine, and they got out of. And when I was in recovery program, one of the things I had now he's the president. I went through a lot of people. I went through Miracle Hill Ministries, which, man, if you have anybody, man, I'm just gonna shout out right there, man, because they nationally they have one of the highest success rates.
Nice.
You know, and it's free.
Yeah.
You know, it's a small upcharge, and they might even waive that, like a $50 or I don't know what it is now, $50 or $100 just to get you in.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you get free counseling, free food, free place to live, but you got to be committed.
Yeah.
You got to do work. You know, this isn't some place out in California where you're spending $10,000 a week for some actor's place.
Yeah.
You know, and they're telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Man, like this is legit. Like recovery.
Yeah.
But anyway, but shout out to them. If anybody's here in the upstate, man, they take people. There are people from from California, from Colorado, from all over. This isn't an upstate thing. So if you know of somebody, man, look them up. They got a website. But anyway, the director, who now is the vice president, he's the president. One of the things he said to me was, never forget how you felt the first day you walked in that door. And man, the weight that I felt on that day, you know, like a disappointment, you know, uncertainty, you know, what do people think of me? How are they going to view this? And seeing the hurt in family, you know, those are things you cannot forget.
Yeah.
You can't, and that's the thing that stuck with me is how does it get through? And it's time, you know, because there comes that dangerous point, like times where, man, I can just go out and have a beer with my friends, but I start role playing in my head what that looks like. And man, that beer might turn into, that night it might be okay, but then it sparks a seed, and that becomes, and if you already had that, it can be a very slippery slope to start going back down that, you know, because what happens if that beer turns into a shot because my team just won and it's just one shot, but then that sparks something and that becomes another beer and another shot. And then I'm down this road again, and, you know, does guilt start coming into this? And then, you know, man, I got to get home. I've been drinking too much, or I'm at the bar and now I've had too many. I'm a little tipsy. I'm not really looking for some cocaine, but I'm in the bathroom peeing, and I see a dude or hear a dude, because that's where they do it, you know, a lot. That's where I did it. Yeah. I mean, there's probably not a bathroom in downtown Greenville I haven't done cocaine in, you know, if you were a restaurant, even a business, you know, if I was in there, you know. So then now I'm weak. My shield's off, you know. And I role play those, you know. So I still, you know, and when people talk about, and people have to handle recovery different, you know, like a great friend of mine now that I went through, and he lived with me for 2 years. His recovery looks totally different than me. You know, I can still go, like when I say I feel like I've got freedom from it, man, I really do, you know, because if you want to have a beer in front of me, that doesn't do anything for me. Yeah. You know, but some people, they've got to leave. They've got to get out of there.
They can't see it. They just.
Yeah. Like they can't even walk go down a certain aisle in a grocery store. Yeah. You know, but like I feel like I've got freedom from it, you know. but it looks different from everybody. But that also can also put me up for vulnerability down the road, you know? Yeah. So because I might become too arrogant or too prideful and be like, man, I got this, and I could put myself in a really bad situation, you know, like I did almost like a year ago, you know? But, you know, so that's how I stay sober, and how I keep it is I do things like this. Like nowadays, if you see me, like if we become close, it's very soon that you will know that I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
You know, like I let that be known. Like now, as where I looked at that as being something I was afraid of, that people look down on, man, that's something I take pride in now. You know, like, man, I'm in recovery, you know, and because it can open up a window to so many people's lives. Yeah. And unfortunately, on the other end, people sometimes, man, I don't want to be the one that jeopardizes this man's recovery by having a beer in front of him, you know, and that you get that a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I was going to ask, too, because, like, and that's what I love about you with that transparency. But I think it's important to have that clarified with people, because then you're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
You know, like at the barbecue, we were like, oh yeah, Ted, there's a beer over there, and Dave, we got some water, sodas, or whatever. You actually have people who will have your back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, listen, you ain't got to fight alone.
Yeah.
We're here, brother.
Yeah.
You know, and I think how important is for someone that might be in their own recovery to have that squad with them, or have someone they can call, or somebody that, you know, like, hey man, I shouldn't do this, or somebody to tap them and be like, hey, you shouldn't do this. Kind of like someone trusted that you could check in with along the way to keep you focused, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need accountability. You got to have that. There's people that I still meet with on a weekly basis. Yeah. There's groups out there, you know. Unfortunately, you know, I have to miss a lot of them because of my night schedule, working third shift. But there's other meetings. There's daytime and morning meetings. But there's one I meet every Thursday morning, you know, and it's a group of guys. And it's not really a recovery-focused one. It's more of my faith. Yeah. But it keeps me grounded. And I can share with them because I've been doing it for so long, for so many years. And one of the guys is like a mentor to me. I mean, he practically is, you know. I mean, somebody I really look up to. But he's been through this for years. But you have the accountability. And I think it makes it easier because then that pressure's not there. You know, if the respect, like in recovery, I allow, like there was a saying, like, your life is a box, is a room, is a room. And you're the only one that has the doorknob to that door. Yeah. You are the one that allows things in. Yeah. You know, and instead of allowing other people on the other side to come in, you have to be in control and control that. And, you know, so when I say, or I'm in at a cookout or something, and because I don't just go out by myself. Yeah. You know, like I go into a situation knowing, and I have that, and but in that recovery, I also know this is what I'm going into. Like I don't go, like I used to go out downtown and drink and everything because I wanted to get messed up. Yeah. You know, now when I go downtown, I think of, man, I'm going down to feed ducks with my daughter or go to eat ice cream. Yeah. You know?
Or that one time, I think it was me and you at Downtown Alive with Ava.
Yeah.
She was still in the stroller. I'm like, people are probably looking at us like an interracial gay couple, right?
Yeah. But it's also your mentality walking into a situation. Yeah. You already have to, you got to own it, you know? Mm-hmm. But saying that, like to y'all, you know, you give options because there's some people that don't know. And if you stay silent, the pressure doesn't let off. Mm. You know, because eventually they're like, man, why don't you just have a beer, man? Just have a beer. We're all having a beer. We're all having a fun time. But if you stay silent and you're like not telling that you have recovery and this is an issue for you, please respect that, you know, as a stranger. You know, you shouldn't have to ask that for your friends in your circle. But, you know, like you said, y'all give that option of, man, there's water and we got juice. You know, y'all, here's a beer if you want one, you know. But it's never brought up again, you know? Yeah. Like, water's in the fridge or in this jug, beer's over here for those who want beer.
Yeah.
And it's never brought up again.
Yeah.
So being that open and transparency, there's not that misunderstanding. Not like somebody's just doing it as a disrespect. They just don't understand.
That's true.
They don't get that. That pressure's not there.
Yeah.
So,
and we can't expect somebody else to kind of read our minds and know what we're thinking or going through.
Yeah.
I want to talk about since you've been going through recovery and sobriety or whatnot. It was last year or before you're like, man, I'm starting running, and then this fool goes and runs a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I gotta say, if you're watching on YouTube, and you were to pick which one of us ran the marathon, it's not the 180-pound dude.
Yeah. 195 now. I've taken time off from running. No, but man, that's the addiction. Like sometimes people look at things as freedom, but really, man, I was enslaved to it, and it controlled me.
Yeah.
And it didn't just control my thoughts; it controlled my actions. And it was a dream killer. It was a thing that, man, like another thing I don't do is I don't smoke no more. Yeah. Cigarettes, and I used to smoke all the time. Thank God I've got the same amount of time in that. I never went back to smoking.
Yeah.
Thank God. But it's like I'm at work. If y'all ever worked in a place and it's break and you see two type of people, the smokers, boom, they're beelining to the door. And the other ones, man, I can go sit in the break room and I can chill and I can relax. I can have a drink and, maybe a snack, Man, they're enslaved to cigarettes.
Yeah. Because
they have to go. And, or have you ever driven down the road and just seen like a group of people and it's 25 degrees outside and they're smoking? Yeah. Like, man, I'm glad I ain't got to do that, But things like that control you. And addiction, man, that controlled me. And that's the good side of recovery. Is, man, I'm free. Like, I am free.
Yeah.
I can do what I want to do. Like, because financially, because I'm not blowing hundreds of dollars a week.
Yeah.
I can save. I'm not in debt. I can go on vacations. I can do things I want to do. Whereas those things take a back seat. Maybe the third row seat, actually,
Yeah.
And the addiction is driving, So instead of staying up all night and smoking and drinking and being hungover, man, I could go out and I can get up and I can go run for 2 hours or go to the gym or, go do this Spartan run, because this is part of my normalcy now. It frees up so much of my life.
Yeah.
You don't see on this side, on that side. You really don't see it until you're away from it. And you're like, man, like life is so much better.
Yeah.
It really is.
Going hiking and enjoying the sights.
Yeah, and it's also the mental, like the mental part of it too, man. I don't wake up in guilt and shame, like I can. There's so many great things about it.
Yeah.
On this side of it.
Yeah.
But there has to be somebody on this side to tell somebody on that side that, man, you can do it. I've done it. And your road might not look like my road, and your struggles aren't my struggles, but there's a different side of it, and it's so much better,
Yeah.
So
last question, I guess, is, with those folks listening who are sitting on the cusp, because, you mentioned earlier, it's about wanting it, right? They need to want it, or they need to see, what it's costing them. What would you say to somebody on the cusp of recovery, or who might have a hard time getting over that initial fear of admitting to themselves what's happening?
From a man's standpoint, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because we want to be, we want to be able to be in control. We hate to admit failure. And a lot of pride of that, man. Like one of the things that I learned from and on the other side, man, is nobody's ever gonna put you down. And that's the lie in your head in this. Nobody's gonna put you down for going through recovery.
Yeah.
It takes somebody extremely strong to say, man, to go up to another person and say, man, I've got a problem and I need help.
Yeah.
Man, that's and a lot of people look at that as shame. And it's not, I don't know. I think that's just in us because people don't say that, you know, like, and people look at recovery as weakness.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, it's we all need help in something, man. It's just the same. Like so if you are tired, you know, and you're like, don't let that be, you know, don't let that be a holdback, you know, that you're afraid or ashamed or, you know, all those feelings, man, because I've had more people say, man, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
You know, not one person's ever said, man, you're weak, or man, I can't believe you went to recovery. Like, you ain't no man. Like, you know, like not one. More people have said, man, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing the right thing. I love seeing who you are becoming.
Yeah.
You know, these are great things that really just fill you up. And then when you get away from it, and you can see it down the road, you're like, man, yep, I get it. I see it. It was the right thing. It is the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, just encourage, you know, find that somewhere, you know, to be able, and your recovery might not, you might not have to go through a 7-month, you know, program like I did, you know, where I was in complete almost isolation. Maybe yours can be a meeting, you know, but I don't know. Everybody's recovery looks different, you know?
Yeah.
So, but man, just taking that step, because meetings weren't enough for me. I tried that, you know, and I'd go right back, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, call somebody, man. If somebody's listening, get a hold of this Ted and them. They can give you my number because, man, I'll talk to anybody and I'll go almost anywhere, you know, to speak to somebody. You know, and, you know, but don't be afraid.
Yeah.
You know, there's no shame in asking for help.
Yeah.
There's really not.
And dude, I look at you with so much admiration and joy, and you know, you're the bravest person I know. And I mean that, brother. I mean that. And, you know, I'm glad to call you a friend.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners, take us up on that offer and reach out to me, and I'll get you in touch with Davey. Is there an email or maybe a social media address that they could reach you at if they wanted to reach you directly, or should they go through me? I don't mind them going through me if they need to.
Man, you can look me up on Instagram. I've got a Facebook account, but I've got it off right now. Yeah. Just I mean, it's still active, but it's not on my phone, and I don't follow it or anything right now. The ironic thing about my Instagram is it's death to life. Yeah. So, and that's true. Yeah. You know, I felt like I was dead once, and now I'm living a life. But yeah, or, you know, it's pretty easy. Murray, number 55. That was my football number in college. So Murray55David@gmail.com. And then if you want my number, get a hold of Ted, and he'll give you my number. So, you know, look me up on Instagram if you want to. Or, I mean, Facebook, I still got Messenger, so you can hit me up on actually, you know, private Messenger on Facebook. Nice. So, you know.
Just a way for folks to reach out.
And I do have a dad out there, and we have the same exact name, so make sure that the picture, usually if you see a blonde-headed 5-year-old daughter, that's me. Yeah. You know, if you see an old man that's in his I say 80s, but he's only 76. But if you see an old man, that's not me. That's my dad. So there are 2 David Murrays out there, you know, at least in Greenville. So
he's a G just like you.
Yeah, he is, man. You know, he overcame adversity as well. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't see it. It was at a young age, but he's always struggled too with some things. You know, that was because of war, but you know, so he is a G, man. He's my hero, man. Yeah. You know, one of the things I'll lead off with, or not lead off with, end with, you know, my dad is a man of few words. Mm-hmm. and a lot of things go back from war, you know, and it's an older generation too. He had hard fathers.
Yeah.
But man, I've done a lot, you know, in life. And there's a lot of dreams that my dad enjoyed seeing me do, you know, things, goals and things that I did, you know, and, but man, the day, I don't know if I would have made it through, but the day that I went into recovery, man, he looked at me and he goes, man, I'm proud of you, you know, and that's the last thing I thought I was going to hear. He could have said a lot of things. He said, you're spoiled. I gave you everything in life. You know, I set you up for everything to have. I gave you all the cards, and you screwed it up, son. Way to go, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. He could have been angry because he helped me also financially during that time, you know? Me and at the time my wife, you know, he helped us out. He wanted to make sure that I was good and that they were good as well, you know? But the thing he said to me, and it stuck with me. And so I think I look at that now as a father, you know, how my responses to my daughter, but also, man, like that stuck with me. Like he just looked at me and said, I'm proud of you, you know? And so, and anybody out there that, man, just know that, you know, I might not know you, but if you take that first step, man, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
Because, and you know, if you don't hear it from anybody else, because you are making a right move.
Nice.
You are making the first right step.
Yeah.
You know? And so, but yeah.
Man.
So that's it.
Davey, brother, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I love you, brother.
Man, I love you too, man.
Yeah, this
You know?
has been awesome, and I really think our listeners are going to benefit from this because, you know, when we say no rain, no rainbows, we always start to stress that the rain is what helps the flowers grow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know? And it was just brought to my attention a few episodes ago on how, like, we did an interview, and I think the listeners will be here, or they should have heard it already, where we discovered sometimes the storms are what save our lives.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
sometimes the rain comes just in time.
That's the absolute truth.
Yeah.
You know, I knew if I didn't go into recovery, you know, the night I made the decision, I had to fall out because I came home at 6:30 in the morning, high and drunk. But at the time, my wife wanted me out, and I understand that and I was in a hotel, man, and you know, in a dark place, man, you know, and I was debating life, you know, where do I go, and even debating ending it, you know, but God gave me the foresight, you know, and I knew. Thank God I didn't have to go down a destructive lifestyle to get me to my rock bottom.
Yeah.
Thank God, you know, because it has been a privilege to not have a criminal record.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great thing, you know, and sometimes people or lose my driver's license or things like that. You know, those are other, you know, and I'm not trying to minimize because I struggled with my addiction for like 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, I just did it good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, but you know, I still lost at the time, you know, I still lost one of the greatest things, you know, but I knew going in, I looked at my life and God gave me clarity in that moment. And I said, man, if I don't get help right now, I will either be dead or in jail. I knew that 100% in my life. I knew that.
Yeah.
And so I had to make the choice. Right there was whether I was going to go left or right, you know?
Yeah.
And thank God I had the clarity to make the right choice. Pride and anger didn't get inside of me, and humility. And I think I learned that from my dad. My dad's a very humble man. So humility was able to override a lot of things, and I was able to go down that road of recovery. And it's the best because that was a hurricane. It wasn't just a rain. It was a hurricane, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, you know, the rebuilding process has been more beautiful than anything in my life.
Yeah.
You know?
I love it. And I'm excited to see where you go because I've seen the progress, and I love seeing you in the gym. I'm trying to get as big as you one day.
You don't want to. It's hard to lose it. I'm telling you. It's hard to lose it.
I'm with you. Well, we'll both keep pushing forward. And Davey, thanks so much to the listeners. I thank you for giving us the time. And I know there was so many valuable things here. Seeing a life through other people's eyes, that was the experience you mentioned about working in the service industry and meeting a lot of people. I think that was important. But it was also important to couple that with something else you said in terms of when you're in that zone, there was no clarity. It was clouded, which is really important for folks to kind of recognize their own blindness to a situation at times. And everyone has their own rock bottom, and I 100% solely hope that you don't reach yours. And I hope that you can kind of look in the mirror or find those people around you that can help pull you in the right direction. The shout out to Miracle Hill Ministries.
Absolutely.
And their service. I didn't know it was free or it was just a small upcharge.
Yeah. And they have one for men and women.
Nice.
So know that,
Yeah.
that they house up over 80 guys. Nice. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the research and make sure that the links are in the show notes. So any of the listeners that might not themselves be going through something but might know somebody, they can give that resource where it's needed, because that's really what it's all about. And also never forget. I think that was huge. And it's really important for a lot of folks to kind of stay grounded in what keeps them going. Yeah. And I love that you do that. And, addiction or recovery, it's different for everybody. I think that's so important because there's no straight playbook to it. It's a different play for everyone, and I think that's important to translate that. So, Davey, man, thanks again.
Yeah, man. Glad to have this opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we always say this at the end of the episode for our listeners. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without a little pain. Mm-hmm. Let's grow. Yeah. The No Rain, No Rainbows podcast is recorded at Camaraderie, a collective workspace in Greenville, South Carolina, right off the Swamp Rabbit Trail. If you're looking for a place to grow your business, network with other professionals, and establish your own workspace, Camaraderie is the place to do so.